Welcome back to DM-Nastics, the gym for dungeon masters to work out their minds. I'm one of your hosts, DM Neil, aka Jote Maniac.
And it's me, DM Celeste, aka Sea Witch.
Dun dun dun. Celeste, clerics?
Yes.
We don't need no stinking clerics.
Oh, but I love a good cleric. Oh, but I guess we technically don't need them.
So this is one of those ones. The title of this one is, I looked up the source of that. Badges. We don't need no stinking
badges, yeah.
But yeah, that comes from a 1948 film, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. And
Whoa.
all I could think was, no.
I've never seen that. I have no idea.
Didn't know. Yeah, I was with you. I'm like,
all right,
that was a
but
thing.
know the phrase.
Yeah, so there you go. But yes, today we're going to tackle another article entitled D&D. I realize there's not more to that, and that feels weird, but that's how titles work. Yeah. D&D. You don't need a cleric as your party healer.
Bold claim by Curtis Sade on Screen Rant. Let's see, Curtis. I don't know. I love playing cleric, so Curtis is gonna have to work hard.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a good thing that I don't know that we do all the time, but I kind of do want to do it with this one.
Yeah.
Like, that as a standalone statement. Like, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there are so many as 5th edition has continued to grow, and kind of the trend we're seeing is that because there's really only 4 real primary classes in this game, cleric being one of them, cleric, wizard, rogue, and fighter. And then a bunch of other classes have come out that are all really just a combination of those 4 in some different way, right? Like your bard, for example, is a little bit cleric mixed in with, a little bit wizard. Whereas like a paladin is a cleric with, a little bit of a fighter mixed in. So yes, that is definitely true. I think in this current iteration of the game, if you have one of those other classes that is really just part cleric, you can absolutely get away with not having a cleric healing your party.
So over time, there are just what we can only describe as nihilisms about things, the way that I view certain things. One is calling certain things the Freddy Krueger principle, where it has more power the more belief that is.
That's the Freddy Krueger principle?
So the whole reason that Freddy Krueger has power is because people dream about him and think about him. The whole thing is like everyone dies and they convince the last person not to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And then he loses his power. Eventually people like find an article and start talking about him again.
Yeah.
And that's what gives him the power. There's deities that function that way in certain D&D settings where like or like our modern day setting, like the god of social media or like something like that. Like that would arise because social media is a new thing and it's a new portfolio. So there's that one. The other one that I don't know that I've said, but it is going to land, I think, really well with our listeners, is that D&D approaches classes the same way that Taco Bell approaches their menu. They only have 4 ingredients, and it's just what order they
what combination.
Yeah, and it's the same way. Like, so the Taco Bell principle will be we only really have 4 things. We just like to mix them up and like convince you that they're different. Yes. We call this we put cheese on the outside, so we call this a quesarito. So
this is something I constantly am reminding people of on the Kobold Press fan discords, because people are always like, "What about why don't you give base class design? Why aren't more people talking about how to design new base classes?" And I'm like, honestly, because it's covered. Like all the ideas are already there, and really you can mostly just get whatever new stuff you want with a subclass design, because like you said, it's the Taco Bell principle. We're not putting anything new in here. Really?
Yeah, and I think which speaks to this so well is that each of the base classes, I think, is a lot more scaffolding than people realize. Like it's not a fully, like it's not a whole house you can just live in. You have to pick a subclass, because I think that's a good example. Like look at just having your base class at level 20.
Yeah.
That's not enough. Like
there's not a lot of flavor on that.
That's not enough flavor. You can't compete in any realm that you think you could.
Yeah.
And so those bolt-on of those subclasses also affords the most opportunity for actual development, because with a cleric, it's all the deities. With a warlock, it's all the patrons. With the sorcerer, it's all the bloodlines. With the fighter, it's all the martial different
archetypes,
approaches. So all of that to say, I also thought the same thing where I'm like, yeah, of course they don't. Just because I grew up with enough people that were already kind of disenfranchised with the idea of the four.
Yeah.
The fighter, the cleric, the wizard, the rogue. So you had a lot of paladins, you had a lot of druids that were healing.
Like sorcerers with the divine bloodline. Like, a lot of people don't want to do the classic, so they find the other ways to do the classic with a different name,
Yeah, let's go get enough healing potions. Let's get a staff of cure wounds.
Yeah.
Let's
magic items.
Somebody invest heavily into their heal skill. Let's all of these different things. So I was shocked to find, because as we talked before we started recording, I really thought this article was going to be like, clerics are dumb, ha! And just throw them out and be like, these are the other options. Don't you dare look at clerics. And I was immediately surprised to the nuance in the article that was basically like, what if your cleric doesn't want to do it?
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially because I love playing clerics. I actually really like playing healer and support characters in general and clerics, but clerics are so diverse in what they can do, and they have this huge access to spell list because they're not, they basically have the whole spell list, and then they can prepare whatever they want. So really, you can do a lot with clerics. They don't have to be that healer type, for sure.
Yeah, and if anything, it's like, I guess this like ulterior motive anytime I choose to play a cleric. Like if I'm picking all classes, all species available, I'll play a dwarf cleric probably 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
And it may get more interesting if like it's a con game or we're going for a certain style, but like everything being equal, that is my happy place, because I'll go do, like you said, have I built one that is more martial and I just run up to the front right next to the fighter, just in the mix of it? Or have I gone a more magical approach?
Yeah, blasty, casty, nuking things.
Nuking things from the back. Just sitting in my full plate armor, like,
hope we don't have I feel amazing.
Anywhere.
I'm invincible.
Yeah.
God says I'm invincible.
I'll die.
Yeah.
So this is a key one, and I also think of all my many, many hours playing World of Warcraft, and in many ways the healer was playing a different game where they're like, those bars are going down and I need to make them go back up, whereas everyone's more engaging with the actual enemies that are there. But one of the sentences in bold that Curtis felt was important was, a player who feels like a healing accessory might lose motivation in both the story and the group entirely.
Especially if the players around them just treat them like that's what they're there to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that has happened a lot. Like, how many times have we all heard the story, especially because, this hobby does still have a problem with, gender and women getting involved. But like, especially when women were really starting to try and break bigger and bigger into this hobby, it was just so classic. Like, oh, well, my girlfriend wants to play. We'll just make her play the cleric, so she's just like healing everyone. Like, that story, I've heard that so many times and heard people turned off from the game because of that.
I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. That exact scenario.
Yeah.
What I try and think about a lot in the historical context, which I've tried to be better about, of both looking at the history to learn from it, not to repeat it necessarily, because I always want to move the hobby forward because that's cool, regardless of everything else. But I think about what was it? Did it just get stuck in people's head that that's just what they do? Because I'm like, I was a cleric. I was weird. My earlier days of playing D&D, I was so weird. I played, because we were rolling stats. We were never doing point buy. We were never doing standard array. I don't even think I knew what that was until 5th edition, standard array.
I don't think I did a standard array either. I think it was always for me random gen rolling or point buy.
And then you just get one where it's everything is so good, but that one roll is just abysmal. And I still remember I played a dwarven cleric and I had a charisma of 3. And it was more of just and everyone always wanted to play the charisma of oh, you're hideous, or you don't, I don't know, all these weird approaches. And mine was just I just don't care about everything. I am fully on the beat of my drum and the rest of you, whatever. And so I played this cleric, and eventually, like, I was rolling around in the dirt. I was like putting bioluminescent fungus all over myself. And it was blue. And like, I was like, I prayed to Papa Smurf and like all these things. And I was stealing stuff because I thought, I was like, I'm just going to take it. It's whatever. Yeah. And they're like, why are you doing that? And it's like, yeah, see, my charisma, you don't like me.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole point of my charisma.
I have achieved.
Yeah. They started yelling at each other. And then they realized like, I'm having this like whispered side conversation with the DM.
Yeah.
Like, hey, wait, where is he at? Where's his character? Like, you don't see him. And like, dang it. Is he in the cave where the monster was? And like, it was a manticore. And like the way the DM described it, it was like these heavy footfalls. Boom. Boom. And then this guttural roar comes out. And so he's like, where is he? Is he in the cave? And so you hear these heavy footfalls. Boom.
Oh,
boom.
No.
And out of the cave. Rah! And I'm yelling and roaring. They're like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, also, I stole the mask that we were told to get and I put it on. They're like, oh no.
Yeah.
But that was me as the cleric.
Yeah.
And so there is these huge story elements that like, and I think that's a big push. I would say if like, because what's really being brought to light with this conversation is like clerics do get a bad rap. Like they always have, in my opinion. And that's part of why I think I've always been drawn to them. I was like,
me too.
Just play it different. Like I don't.
It's the same reason I love playing humans, and same reason I love playing fighters. Like people are like, ew, so boring. I'm like, but have you ever actually tried though? And like seen all the incredible diversity, and because they have been around for so long, their class features work the best in the game. They have been there supporting and the fantasy and the fun since day one. So they're always going to feel better to play and more seamless than something, the sorcerers and the paladins that came along later.
Yeah, and I can't see in my mind what the release schedule is, but because it's been so long since we've done some of the classes, we actually restarted our class series with the fighter specifically. And one of the best things that got brought up was the mechanics are so well defined that they can get out of the way. Like they just are what they are. And then, so then who are you as a character? Because as a class, that's really defined for you.
Yeah, we know what a fighter is and what they're about. And it's clear, like, mechanically and from in there. So they, there's a reason that fighters often end up as, think of all your favorite fantasy books. Do you want to bet the class of the protagonist in there? Mm-hmm. It's fighter, I think 9 times out of 10.
Because it's also the closest analog to something you feel like you could do, because it's not necessarily magical. You can see people in the real world that have developed those skills and so on and so forth. But that's it. The other part that we probably should talk about is the fact that there are other classes that can facilitate the healing required by the group. Because I think of like larger groups, especially larger groups, and smaller groups, it's tougher because somebody has to carry more of that load. But once you're getting into a group of 6 and especially 8, I feel like that like kind of catch-all healing is just there.
Everybody's got a little, right? Like if you have such a big group, there are certainly ways you can spread that around.
Yeah, literally. And here's the other thing that you can think that we alluded to that I don't know is as written here, but as much as we talk about like keep on dungeon mastering, one of the other things is like part of that comes with like what is happening for your players to keep on playing.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think about a lot is building subclasses for people. I'm not going to build this base class. Like I'm right there with you. Like, okay, what for? That's not going to be cool enough. But what if it is the fighter who grew up in a monastery? What if it is a fighter that like protected a group of clerics and their subclass is healing? Mm-hmm. And now, and then it's like, well, isn't that a paladin? And my answer is no, but that's the point.
Yeah.
It's just the same way that I want to build a monk who just punches the crap out of people and doesn't meditate. Yeah. That's enjoyable for me. Yeah. I can see how I got there. But the idea of adding on a healing subclass, there's also a part of me that has always wanted to develop like a supplement that is subclasses that do not directly require classes.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Very difficult.
And I'm not and I'm by no means the first person to think that, but there is something very interesting about the idea that is plausible. It's difficult, yes, but it is plausible that you could build a subclass that just bolts on to every base class.
This is something that actually Cobalt Press did in the original like Deep Magic stuff. A lot of this was like playing with it. We had some subclasses in there that's like either a wizard or a cleric. It could take this, right? So you have to sort of tie it to like the base core features, but it is totally possible. And again, that's where we see that DNA of like, can you survive without a cleric? The answer is yes, because the cleric is actually inside of already a lot of these other classes. Like, they're all so close. I mean, the wizard is just could be a cleric if they had different spells to pick, right? Like, realistically. Like, that's how it all works. So doing something like, adapting a life healing domain for a wizard would totally be sick. You just basically have to say those domain spells, which, hey, is part of the subclass.
There's so many options, like you said, especially with the spell list, because that's the other thing I think I didn't necessarily mention is also when I played all these clerics in all the very different ways that I played them, I also still was able to heal people. Like it wasn't that I didn't heal them, because the other argument is like, a strong offense is the best defense, and it's all about effective health. And these are the things where you get like super nerdy into how it actually works. It's like a higher armor class is technically that. Is it temporary hit points, which is effective health? Also, if the monster's dead, we're probably not dying.
Yep.
Because it's not.
We just killed them real fast.
More damage to us.
It's a good way. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I stopped all the damage. You're like,
yay! You're healed,
basically. Yeah. Just go to bed. You're fine.
Now we're gonna have a snack.
Yeah, I know that your arm got cut off, but I hear 8 hours of sleep. You're good to go.
Do wonders.
I love that, because it's like there's just some really hand wavy aspects of all of these games. And that's my personal favorite of like, what's that? What happened to you? 8 hours of sleep, and you're
8 hours of sleep. We'll clear that right now.
just pop back up and just start running into the next part of the dungeon. You don't have to worry about it.
It's fine. Okay.
Now I have a random question.
Yes.
What is your favorite non-cleric healer?
I'm also very drawn to paladins. I really like the lay on hands feature. Has always felt like really cool for me thematically. I'm not sure I love the action economy around it, but like as a mechanic, but I love that idea. Like let me, touch your face, companion, and like regenerate that. And like the idea of auras, and especially those ones that have vitality or let you like, do well on death saves or whatever. Like, so Paladin is really awesome. I've played a lot of bards in my life. Bards are just, I love that bards have a little bit of everything. So you really can always be that jack of trades. So typically, if I don't see anybody else like make a cleric in the party, I'm almost certainly gonna go bard or druid potentially, because druids also have a lot of really great stuff.
Druid's my personal pick. There's it's the snake eating its tail in many ways of World of Warcraft influencing, my time playing Dungeons and Dragons, influencing how I approach World of Warcraft, and in turn, my time playing World of Warcraft influencing how I play Dungeons and Dragons. But there's something like, there was always something really interesting or really cool feeling about, popping out. I was always a Tauren, but popping out into that.
My first character was a Tauren.
Yes,
a Tauren shaman, I think.
Mine was a Tauren warrior.
Yeah.
And his name was Bad As. But just with an AS, just one. Because which I thought was a funny play on words, because I'm as bad as anybody else, because I didn't know what I was doing.
Oh, yeah.
But the idea of like popping out, doing a couple heals, turning into a bear and running up to the front and tanking things. And then like, okay, switch, and like you got to pop back out, cast a couple spells back, am I sustaining myself? And then like going back in. So druids were always my go-to.
I'd probably say paladin, because I really like healers, like a lot of clerics that can just stand at the front, like where the fighting and the damage is being dealt, and like right there, and your companion, So paladin is that kind of cleric build, built in from this front. Like they're just that shield wall right there. Like your allies are here, and in the heat of the moment, you can either be there to take a hit and then also heal your friends or deal some damage. That's pretty righteous.
Well, I think we've done it. And of course, as always, if you see fit to leave us a rating and review, head over to your podcatcher of choice and do so. We'll love it. It'll make me smile. I'll just be walking down the street and I won't know why. But then I'll think, I bet someone gave us a good review.
You know what? I just felt that. I felt those stars being sprinkled on my day. And of course, if you always want to reach out to us, you can do so by emailing us at dmnastics@gmail.com or find us on social media at DMsBlock or DMs_block. Me personally at CConowitch, Neil at JoteMoniac. And for everything else on the network, check out blockpartypodcastnetwork.com.
Let's head to the post-workout cool down and stretch with the light bulb.
Light bulb.
So, funny enough, my light bulb is light bulbs.
Light bulbs? Literal light bulbs?
Literal light bulbs.
Oh my.
Yeah. It really threw you for a loop. You have no context for this.
No idea.
So recently it was my birthday.
Yeah.
And
happy birthday.
And what I ended up getting was the D&D Lego set.
Oh, cool.
But what I also got for the D&D Lego set was a light kit. So it's just like really small LEDs.
That are meant to like uplight and like go into Legos. That's so cool.
Yeah, so to go in like where the torches are or backlight statues or the wings of the dragon are going to be lit up or. And so there are a bunch of different light kits and things like that. But what I realized with that is that so it wasn't like super cheap. But what I realized in purchasing it was it feels cheap if I'm using it for different things.
Yeah.
So especially if you have like any kind of D&D terrain
mini setup or terrain.
Yeah. Getting like a small LED light kit and just like having like in placing those for the time being, like as you set things up, I think will like elevate that particular aspect if that's what you choose to do. Certainly, like I am happy with everything from Theater of the Mind to no, you can solve the riddle because the pieces are actually in the actual terrain that I've placed on the table. Anything in between, I am more than happy with. If it's minis on a map and everything. But what I'm saying is, if you are the kind of person that is using physical terrain, I would say like head down to your local hobby shop or look around online and find like a little LED light kit and kind of see where it takes you. Like you could spend $10 and have enough to like light up some torches down a hallway.
Oh yeah, because some lighting it would feel like, some of those really, really high-end terrain stuff, I'm always so excited when you look at like Dwarven Forge and you're like, oh man, this cauldron lights up. Like just even like that wow factor. So yeah, having cool lighting yourself that you can set up and stage like for the moment, that's amazing. That's a great idea.
I also thought of even just like in this moment thinking of like, even if it's a singular light, on a prominent piece. Is it a statue that you've put? Yeah. Is it that? And you're like, okay.
Like boom, a gravestone?
You enter the room and you just have a little switch you flip. Yeah. Boom. And now that particular piece is lit up.
Oh, it's so cool. A dramatic, like a tomb. Yeah. Like a mausoleum with the light falls on it. Oh, creepy. So good.
So yeah, adding some lights and there are larger aspects to that in terms of like the way you want to light a room for your D&D. But this is more geared specifically to very small, very easily managed, very low power LED lights that you could add to your terrain.
That's a great idea.
I mean, out of my own curiosity, I will probably do some research and there will be some sort of link in the show notes. To what? Yeah. I do not yet know.
But we will find a way.
Yep. If there's a will, there's a way. With that, we'll turn out the lights and head out of the gym. But before we go, I want to implore you, the listener, to join the forums, the Discord, Twitter, and anywhere else you can find us. Take part in these challenges, exercises, and other amazing conversations being had.
To do that, head over to bit.ly/DMBanter and try some DM-Nastics so your players don't ask, do you even live?